proposal to north from here. I realize that you haven't discussed it yet, but I understand this is the time for public comments. So I just wanted to make a couple of suggestions. As you know, the Surface Transportation Board at the federal level is considering the rail banking issue, and being as that is still being discussed, I think it would be inappropriate at this time for you to consider or to grant funding to an operation that would take part of the line out of the equation. The Port Authority, when they issued the RFP, received back 5 proposals on the line. 4 of the 5 entailed using the entire line. 1 of them entailed just using the line north. There's good reason for that. It's because the line can't make money just going north. Most of the people who proposed the people who made the other 4 proposals recognize that it's got to run both north and south in order to make money. So I would suggest that until this process has had an opportunity to play out and the Surface Transportation Board has had the opportunity to rule on this, that you not grant money to just going north. The Indiana Transportation Museum, for all their faults, and they have had trouble over the years, ran that thing for 30 years and never had to come to you to ask for public money. It is possible to run a railroad on there without having to use public money, and I would just ask that you take that into consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee officer reports. I have nothing, Mr. Vice President.
I have nothing.
Okay. Highway?
I have a couple things that will be on the agenda later. I wanted to point out one thing we have is the Keystone ramp southbound that the county is going to pay for, which it decided wasn't necessary. We believe, everybody believes it is definitely necessary to alleviate traffic. The money is going to pay for from the TIFs surrounding that area, and I think it's going to come to us in October. Is that about it, Brad?
You guys don't want to wait till we actually get to that item. Do you want to do that?
It's not on this.
No, it's not. I think that's not on here.
Yeah, we just want to be able to answer any questions you might have about the project tonight and just have a discussion about it. I think most all of you know what it is at this point. So there's 2 phases to the project. What's in red is phase 1, and that's what is actually going to letting in February of next year. And it has about $5 million worth of federal funding in that through the Indianapolis MPO. The MPO has, unfortunately, February is kind of the last month in the fiscal year that the MPO can award a project with those funds that they have set aside for this. So it's critical that we try and make that February letting for phase 1. So the financing for phase 1, of course, is, as Rick has said, is all through the TIF. The TIF will need to support the bond issue, and Mr. Howard is here tonight to answer questions about that. I have questions about that tonight, so I'll leave that to Mike if he wants to answer any questions. Phase 2 then follows up later, and the reason is because the federal money for phase 2, which is another about $5 million, isn't available until fiscal 2021. So we're going to try to move that up if we can some, but right now that is the kind of the yellowy portion there. That one is a little bit different. That is a typical 80-20 split on that one, so we're getting a lot more in terms of percentages of federal money for the project in phase 2. If you have any questions of us, be glad to try and answer those.
We got this agenda. Yeah.
It's up on the agenda.
Because we got this. We do have this on the agenda actually. So yeah. When we move and second it
for the right of way.
For the right of way. Yeah. So thank you, Brad. Moving on to Finance Committee.
Yeah. Now the 3 members of the Finance Committee are all here. I'll make a few remarks, and then if any of the other members want to add to that or subtract from it, they can. We reviewed the contract, the proposed contract for the solar panel project. At the Finance Committee, we had our attorney review the wordage in the contract. We had our finance, what is it, Rick?
There's no contract. It's proposal.
The proposal, I'm sorry. We had our finance guy, Mike Reuter, go over the different scenarios of what they have proposed. And our recommendation, if we went ahead with the proposal as it was proposed to us, that the interest rate on the lease purchase, the effective interest rate, as long as it's not higher than 3.65%, and the rate of increase from the utilities is not more than 4.29, then the Finance Committee would give it a positive recommendation.
Okay, what do you, say those rates one more time, Brad?
The effective interest rate, this is a lease purchase. What was proposed was a lease purchase. And Mike said the cost of money and what we could borrow for in the outside world, as long as we're below 3.65% interest rate on the money for the lease purchase and 4.29 on the rate of increase, because the rate of increase in your utilities is figured into this proposal. As long as the rate of increase is not more than 4.29, in those two parameters, the rest of it, we would give a positive recommendation. Is that your remembrance of it?
Okay.
What's that? That's my recollection. I was there.
Okay. Anything else on that? Nope. Because we'll be discussing this in a minute anyways. Anything for personnel?
There'll be items later in the agenda, and we'll address those at that time.
Okay. Miscellaneous?
I have one item. I would like to say I met with Michael Snowden, and the 911 director for the county, and did take a visit to the backup 911 center, and it is starting to move along. Brad, I think you were there as well.
I went down and looked at the building, yeah.
It is moving along very well, and kudos to Mr. Snowden. That's all I have.
Move on to unfinished business, none there. Table business, we have the rainy day fund additional appropriation for $250,000 on State Road 37 marketing. Okay, hearing nothing there, we'll go to the solar project.
The motion to untable for discussion.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded to untable for discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, now it's been moved. Go ahead, Brad.
Okay, what I've just said before, the proposal that was put before the Finance Committee, we're recommending to the full council that we would go ahead with that proposal as long as it meets those two criteria of the effective interest rate and the effective rate of utility rate of increase, which there were two numbers plugged into the proposal. I don't remember what they were, but after discussion and looking at them, those two there, if they can meet that parameter, the general consensus was the rest of the proposal would meet a positive recommendation. It is generally speaking, a lease purchase for approximately $8 million to do several pieces of a project. One of them is solar panels, the other is lighting, the other is a electric to gas conversion at community. But all those parts of the project together, lease purchase $8 million, we would substitute our yearly electric utility costs that we're now spending at the jail complex would be diverted and go to Johnson Mello as the energy saving component of this. And instead of making that utility payment, we would pay towards this lease purchase of this project. And at the end of the year, end of the 20 years, we would buy it for $1 basically. And for 20 years, we'll give them our utility payment, and we would get the parts that are in this project. We have researched it thoroughly. And that's all I got to say. If any of the other finance committees.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I agree with Brad. We have discussed about other avenues of financing, and I think some people have accused the council of delays, but I think Steve would attest to this, that this was not something that was just rolling off of a log. I mean, we were presented well by Mr. Wood, and but there several factors came up. We had to interview people. I personally talked to scientists and engineers who had some real questions about whether it's a good idea or not. So the idea that we, for some reason or another, intentionally delayed it, it took a little gray matter, a little work to get this thing put together. So, in my opinion, there weren't any remotely close to intentional delays. So, with that said, go ahead.
And I appreciate.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Let's go down the line. See, you got anything?
I'd just like to add that I'm in favor of the proposal as presented. I think everybody's done a good job. Mr. Wood, thank you very much. You have been neck deep in this for months or a year, I suppose. Thank you for that. And again, I'm in favor of this as the proposal was presented to us.
I think you did a great job too, Steve, and I think our finance committee did as well. I mean, they really combed over these numbers, so, thank you for all your work on that. I would like to see, number one, from what Brad said, that's what he is proposing, and that's good because there's, that's one of the more better avenues, I should say, that are being laid out, because there's not any cash being brought up front, but that's not the only one that we've seen. So that needs to be clarified before there's a vote. I think exactly what you are voting on. You're voting on the option where you're not taking anything and any millions of dollars out of the rainy day fund. Correct. So that needs to be, because that's one of the proposals that's also been discussed. I mean, I'd like to see the interest rate between the 3.675 and the 4.29. I mean, is that something that you?
So what I would request is you decide how you want to pay for this, and we make the motion to move on under the agreement that has to be approved by the attorney's contract, and then whatever requirements you put on there, all those have to be met to move forward with it.
Okay.
And they'll start hooking up with that kind of an agreement? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so.
Can we get started?
Yeah, so we would need $320,000, we had this discussion earlier, $320,000 to order the panels. That would be reimbursed back to the rainy day fund, if that's what so was met. That's what we talked about. To go back to that, at least get the panels ordered and going, okay? And then any other agreements that have to be made, changes need to be made, could be done. That's going to be.
May I ask a quick question? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
just-
I just try to skip over you. Just kidding.
Steve, again, everybody's thank you. You have done a great job.
I appreciate it.
And I'm not trying to be nitpicky, Brad. It's just Steve clarified before the meeting that it's just simply been a proposal. There is no contract. Mike Howard hasn't reviewed any formal contract. Chris hasn't had one. So, it still has to be meshed out, all those parameters, the measurement and verification on the savings, and we asked for some additional options, and
Right.
one of them was that we would pay partly cash, and then both of which gives us a higher rate of utility savings, but again, puts us in a position where we use cash. And I've heard others say, let's not go that route. I'm fine with that. We've also clarified that there's absolutely no way this can be done before the end of the
Correct.
year.
Correct.
Still save money. We just won't save as much as we could have if we had known about it before the legislature decided.
Legislature hadn't changed.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they changed the law. Nobody really saw that coming. So, again, we tried to do the due diligence, and I'm comfortable with where we're at now.
Go ahead.
So the question that I posed to you, and I believe we have a member of Johnson Mello who's here, just based on that Indiana code, 36-1.
We also have Mr. Howard here. He
Oh.
probably, actually, Mike, you want to answer that? We were talking about that.
So I was just asking, as far as the language that you see in that Indiana code 36-1-12.5, that guaranteed, I just want to make sure that I understand how it's determined, the reimbursement, the difference between the guarantee and the cost savings. That's just a piece, since we don't have firm numbers.
I just saw some comments from council, and it looks like he feels there's some ambiguities in the contract, and we can work on those, work together on those. The other thing I think is important that was not discussed in his memo is behind the Johnson Mello guarantees is what's called a performance bond. We in the public infrastructure and the public works world, having a performance bond is the best guarantee in the world, because if there is a problem, you send to the contractor, please find enclosed the letter that I'm going to send to your bonding company. It's amazing how much attention you get, and nothing against Kurt and his company, but if these guys can't get performance bonds, they're out of business in the public works world, and if they get claims against their performance bonds, they're going to have trouble getting them. So I agree, council, there are some vague terms we need to work on, but those, usually that reluctant contractor turns into a very motivated problem solver. So, and the bond is really, I think, the key thing by a company that has a lot of insurance in this issues, but I think we'll get those worked out.
I appreciate that, and I know you are very, very thorough. The biggest articles that I read was Beware the Fine Print in Performance Contracts from a national expert who has litigated these and says that you have this guaranteed energy savings contract, what can go wrong? Well, it says thousands of lawsuits, have proved. So, that's all I'm just saying. The devil's in the details, as you know. So
the bonding company's guarantee is only as good as what they're guaranteeing in the initial contract.
Okay, Jeff, wait a minute, Jeff.
I know this is for Brad. We've got two things here. What you're saying the finance committee recommended is the second page, the $8 million sale price without the $3 million cash.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not this one.
Yes.
Okay. All right, got it.
No, excuse me.
No?
We're
Am I
going
not-
back to the original one. This one is 9 years. Because Steve indicated that otherwise we are using cash to make those payments.
Yes, no, I'm
Oh,
looking
okay.
at the original, that was 20 years, wasn't it?
Okay.
Original was
Okay.
20 years.
673.
18 and a half years, 18 months.
Minus 20 years old.
Yes,
Gotcha.
that's, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Okay.
The positive recommendation, and like I said, I know there are other counselors that have different ideas of how to finance that, but for my seat on the finance committee, I'm comfortable with it, with these two parameters that I laid out earlier, in the 20-year program with, other than a few $100,000 to get the order in, it's all financed out of utility costs that we're already incurring and not cash out of our reserves.
Well, I appreciate that, Brad, and I'm still for it.
Well, I'd just like to say that I was, one of the things that caused me to lose sleep at night was this utility cost increase because nobody really knows. And so I was thinking, so I tried to research it, and then I finally come up with, I deal with a lot of different, entities, and so they say, hey, we're not going to have any more hydroelectric power dams. We're not going to have any nuclear plants. Every coal company in this country is operating. Over half of our coal comes from a bankrupt company. Peabody Coal went broke. So with that, I kind of thought, well, probably there is going to be some rate increases, So that was the one item that I kind of was, couldn't quite, get over because it was so hypothetical. And then I contacted these people. So I just want to tell the council that I feel comfortable there'll be at least 4.5%.
Yeah, that's what Paul's just reiterating, and I agree with him. We looked into this. We didn't just skim it over.
No,
I
I know.
called individuals not on your list
I know.
from Duke Energy trying to find out what they would tell me, and they don't like to go much over 2 or 3 years or what they're going to do. But
You remember 2 years ago when I gave you the projection for every county building, even the parks?
No.
I request that again from Duke. They're currently working on that, and I'll also give that to you. It'll show the increase for 2018 for every building we projected that you're responsible for.
right, okay.
Building and grounds, 1,000, is that enough?
What about the legal contract?
I haven't got to that yet.
Yeah.
That's coming.
So it was $320,000, $328,000.
You don't need any extra
Nope.
fluff.
20%. They'll pay 20% of the panels.
To get building and grounds, $328,000 for buying rainy day fund to be advertised by the auditor. In addition, go with the original proposal. Contracts drawn up and reviewed and approved by our council attorney and the commissioners.
Perfect.
And the commissioners have approved it.
Second.
Rick, you want to throw in my numbers here?
Yes.
With energy inflation not to exceed 4.29 and interest
Oh, the interest rate was,
3.65.
3.6.
he about had his heart attack right there, by the way.
Or less.
Or less. We are shooting for less, so, yes.
Yes, thank you.
2.65, I thought we were gonna have to call you yes.
Thank you.
So I'll second on your modification to the motion.
Okay, Brad, all those in, we'll do a roll quick, now, so then this is final for this item for tonight, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Come before us in October.
oh, okay, so there's another vote on it, go ahead.
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm still no on this, and the reason is first of all, you did do a good job, and I'm glad we're not doing the cash option now, because I seen that was on the table, and I don't think we have the cash, but we talked about the difference, and I talked to DLGF, and if it's coming out of the general fund, it could be considered that, and I think that's actually just, it's another liability, and we're not totally, now, if the lawyers' contracts, if they both got together, and they got rid of those ambiguities and said, look, this savings guarantee, that'd be a different story than tonight. But for tonight, that's not done, so, you know.
Yeah. Well, we have no contract, because nothing had been agreed upon.
Right, exactly, so I mean, we'd be voting blind, so, you know, for those reasons, I'm gonna go no, but, like I said, good job to you guys, go ahead, Rick.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 6-1, that's it, moving on.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
You know, I think something lost in all this is because of the two corners everybody takes to say, the thing is, the right thing to do for posterity. I mean, we inherited a beautiful country with and no matter how you feel about climate change or whatever, every single one of us in government is responsible to make sure that we're good stewards of what we were given. And God and our ancestors have given us a lot in this country, and it would be a shame if we didn't take advantage of things like utilities that can be restored. So thank you very much for bringing it up, Steve, and thank council for passing it.
Thank you all for your due diligence, too.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thanks for that, Paul. New business, approval of vendor claims.
So moved.
Second.
Presented.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, Hamilton County Tourism, Nickel Plate Heritage Railroad, sponsored by myself. I'm gonna make a motion for that.
Second.
Okay, Brenda. It's been moved and seconded.
Thank you. Thanks for hearing me out. I was passing out a Cliff Notes version of our request. Am I allowed, Fred, to address a couple of the public comments
Sure.
before going into
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Okay. First of all, the Nickel Plate Heritage Railroad, Atlanta Pacific Railroad have been awarded the contract by the Hoosier Heritage Port Authority, pending final negotiations. Even if the rail banking situation, even if the rail banking were not allowed, I mean, if rail banking prevented the rails to trails on the south end of the line, you've chosen a new operator, and this new operator would work with you on running the whole line. Does that make sense? Is that clear? So I think that's really important to know that I don't think the litigation has anything to do with tonight's request. Secondly, to say that the previous operator did not need help from public funds is incorrect. We've given $500,000 to the ITM in the 12 years that I've been here. The only reason we stopped giving them money was because they failed to meet a grant, fulfill a grant request, and so therefore, or a grant obligation, and so therefore we ceased funding them. So I just want to clear up those two issues. The contractor has been awarded. It's up to the contractor. It's up to the contractee to make the north end work. Our pro forma definitely makes the north end work. We have a talented rail operator and a nonprofit already formed. I'd like to amend my request to $750,000 specifically for the use of restoration of the track. We have had no problem at all getting a lot of interest in the equipment and funding the equipment. Our challenge has been in restoration of the 12 miles of track between Noblesville and Atlanta, because we do not own the asset. Does that make sense? And no, it would be like me borrowing, $50,000 to spiff up the house that I rent from Brad Beaver. Banks don't like that. And so therefore that has been our challenge, and we had acknowledged it in our contract, in our bid. We do have a plan B, a small issuance bond is our plan B. You can do a nonprofit small issuance bond. We would not be coming to you for that. Depending on whether we could get that sold or not would be another question, but that absolutely is our plan B. And what I'm proposing is that the revenue from the operation of the railroad would pay for this debt service, but to make you feel more comfortable, we would do an interlocal agreement backstopping that loan with lodging tax dollars. So you get first access to it, so you can garnish my wages, and you can absolutely take that money if we don't. Let's get it. Okay, never mind. So
we can do that with everybody, Brenda.
I bet you can, Brad. I bet you have. You've garnished my wages before, now that I think about it. Oh, yes, you have. Yeah. So, anyhow, not lately.
So, Brenda, just a quick question. So, what you're actually requesting is $750,000 from council to work on the tracks.
Alone.
Alone. Okay, so basically this is.
You're welcome to give it to me, Steve. You're welcome to give it to me, but it would be.
I'll run that by my.
I know how much Don and Robin like interlocal loans, and so they would be very excited about it. I can see Robin's face right now.
Yeah. So basically, we're just trying to take care of our asset with this $750,000.
We were as I understand it, I don't know, a lot of the other proposals were redacted, and quite frankly, I didn't have time to read through them all. But, we very much up front said that, the fact that in exchange for operating on the line, we will restore your line was our proposal, and we thought we would be getting USDA funding, our pass-through backed grant for that, not a grant, a loan. But for some reason, even though the USDA backs the loan 70% and we would back the other 30%, banks are not willing to loan us the money.
I have another question for you, Brenda.
Yes, sir.
Without seeing a contract and this new vendor, would the vendor have exclusive rights to the rail?
I don't know that we've finalized that level of detail.
But right now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just getting to a point that, so there could be several vendors use that rail.
I think it would be challenging for any one vendor to share the revenue opportunities and still meet the obligations of, it's expensive to operate, as I'm sure everybody here in the ITM knows, to operate a rail line simply, so it would be hard to share the revenue and make that work. We would probably not accept that offer.
What I was trying to get at, these little Pullman cars, they have clubs all over the United States and they travel.
We have a business attraction. We would be going and trying to bid on that business to bring it in. Does that make sense as a group?
So there's no vendor that would like to have that business here in addition to any other vendors?
Oh, you mean talking about those manual, we would
motorized
probably,
manual, maybe there's several vendors is what I was getting
We would
at.
probably prefer that we work with them on a sublease arrangement, since we're the leasee.
Okay, that answers my question.
These are hypotheticals as of now, right? I mean, you haven't.
Yeah.
So what do we vote? What are you asking for us for tonight? Because it doesn't sound like, we're not giving you anything yet because you didn't have it drawn up, right?
Right. Once the contract is approved, I'm asking you for consideration of $750,000 to do line restoration between Noblesville and Atlanta, pending approval of the contract. We could work out the terms of the loan that would make you feel comfortable. We could do a 3 or a 5 year note. If we can do a graduated repayment plan. We can reimburse you for interest lost based on the fact that you would be pulling money out of assets, out of investments, and we would negotiate terms of the loan. And depending negotiation of the terms of the loan that you would be willing to loan us for the restoration of 12 miles of track.
Okay, you're basically just your loan is backed by your tax.
And an agreement, we would do an interlocal agreement. I don't know, we could do an interlocal agreement that would say if the entity fails, that we would we would pay the money back.
We've already done.
Yeah, that's what our
Our
co-ed,
money comes through the auditor's office and we step in front of her.
that's the garnishing of
That's what I
wages
just
thing I
told
was
you.
mentioning.
We get
yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
money. It
Yeah,
comes
but we're still, I mean, we're still,
Comes through
just
the auditor.
clarifying
Yeah.
that though, Brenda, it's backed by your
Lodging tax,
lodging
right.
tax, okay?
So just for
Because
clarification,
it fits the uniform keeper's tax requirements of tourism development, yes.
just for clarification, either way we go, vendor or not, we still need to take care of the intersections as they are right now, so we need money to take care of the rails. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think there would be people here who do argue that. You know, what I'm really offering you is the 12 years of work that we've done and our good faith that we're going to
Okay.
continue to do this no matter what. If, however, there is no contract awarded, then in the interlocal, it would have to be that you absorb those costs, because the only way we're going to pay back those costs is to operate a train on that line. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Up the love fest for a minute, because, you know, we're being backed into approving something that I thought the majority of us did not like, which was Fishers, Noblesville City, and the commissioners deciding to halt the fair train, et cetera. And so my opposition, Brenda, your idea is fine, and if it was privately financed, I wouldn't have a problem. But I have a problem with us loaning a third party money acting like a bank. We haven't done that.
The only reason we're asking you is because you own the asset that we're improving.
We're 1/3 of.
Okay, you're right. I mean, and, you know, we could have a fundraiser and see if every city would give us $250.
Right.
I think the argument is that, or maybe we go to the city of Noblesville and see if they would split it with us, because the argument is really the north end wins on this, although I recognize the fact that it was the south end's idea, right?
Didn't we discuss earlier that Noblesville and Fishers, weren't they going to talk with the commissioners and possibly relinquish their thirds? And then we would, as a county, have control of the northern third? Is that some of those
I
discussions?
thought there was some discussion as to whether or not you could do that, given that you're banking the asset. Does that make sense?
Guess I'm a little confused on what to do here.
Yeah.
I
I don't know who the owners are.
And I guess the only other reason I would argue, I'm sorry, Brad.
All
Go
right.
ahead, I'm done. Thank you.
That's all right. Look, I want to say a few things about this particular item. I kind of piggyback on what Rick said. I do like your ideas and your enthusiasm to try to save this particular attraction or utility in the county, but I think me and Rick was the only ones here when we bought this thing. I'm not sure there was any city councilors of either other that were there when we bought this asset. It was my understanding when we bought the right-of-way that a train of some type had to run on that track for us to maintain ownership of the right-of-way, because we don't own the land, we own the right-of-way. And how the other entities can decide they're going to change that, I would like for our attorney to draw up a letter and send it to the head of the Port Authority or their staff person to find out what the legalities are, because I'm not sure that we retain the right of the right-of-way without a train running on it. So when you say I'm going to tear up the track and put in a trail...
I am not going to tear up the track.
No, I'm not saying you, and I'm not done. When an entity says, well, I'm going to take this track up and I'm going to make it a path, but the original agreement was you had to run a train to retain the right-of-way, I think one is exactly opposite of the other. And until it's clear to me that, yes, you can take up the track and not run a train on it, and you still retain that right-of-way.
You can. The rail banking legislation.
I would like to see that.
I can send you some links on it if you'd like to read up on it.
I would like our lawyer to look at that. So that's my position, and I agree with Rick that there was a picture in the paper, and here we are, and we're mayors and commissioners, we're going to tear up the track. We weren't alerted to that before that actually happened, and here we are going to bank a proposal, which I like your proposal, to keep the train running when we didn't make the decision to stop the train in the first place.
Paul?
Well, I like the train. I was disappointed that we weren't included in the decision. but I don't see that as being, just because we're not going to have a train, going to the fair, doesn't mean we shouldn't have a train. And I applaud your efforts to get this going. And am I missing something here?
I think one of the things that you need to remember is, so we're asking you for an interlocal loan, a loan from the family, for 12 miles of the track. So should everything fail, does that make sense? Should everything fail, if the rail banking idea fails, or if you all are able to stop the rail banking idea, we'll still be running a track, and you still need restoration of the track. Does that make
Brenda,
sense?
I want you to understand, I like your idea.
Oh, I know.
really
I'm not trying to get defensive. I'm just trying to.
The only time we get to hold forth is when somebody asks us for the money. They don't ask us when they're going to go get their picture taken up the trip. Nobody asks us.
Okay.
The only time we're asked is when we're asked for money.
I just want to.
And that's
I am not the person who made
I
that
know.
decision.
I understand.
Okay, Brad, you got anything, Steve? We'll go this. All right, I'm just gonna quick. It wasn't our decision, yeah, but it's probably gonna get done. And if I get the people with the rail, they got a concern, but the commissioners and the mayors and the commissioners and mayors of Noblesville and Fishers, they made the decision. We did not make this decision, but this is in particular. You'd be happy. You're at least gonna have some type of train there. And I've been in certain areas. Connorsville was one, where these things actually did draw people to the area. So I don't know if this lawsuit is going to go, I don't know how the lawsuit's going to go. I mean, I would think that hopefully it would be resolved soon. You can know what you would do, but I would think that if they're going to rip them up anyways, and that's Fishers and Noblesville, and we can't stop that, okay? But if looking past that with what we can't control and what we can control, we can at least turn around and salvage something for the northern part of our county. So with that said, I think it's a good idea going forward after our attorney looks at it and we figure out what's going on with this lawsuit.
And
So,
can I make
go
one
ahead.
more? Can I also give you a timing issue that that the only reason we would like to know if we have the opportunity to borrow the money now is so that we can queue up and get in line for an early spring start on the restoration. Does that make sense? And by then, hopefully things will be settled. And you don't have to give us the money until we start the work. Am I making sense? We just want to know if we have the money available in the savings account, in the loan account. Let me shouldn't say that, the line of credit account, so that we can at least queue up and get in line. That's the reason. It's very difficult to find rail restoration.
And Brenda, again, I'm going to echo partly what Brad said. I think your idea looks fine.
It was a compromise, Rick. It was a goal to have a compromise. Yeah.
And I had a problem with the selection that HHPA did. This group that you're.
I didn't like my score either.
Wasn't the highest ranking or whatever. But I have a principle that our hands right now are clean, and I don't want our hands to get muddy and dirty by funding something that,
Loaning money to something. I just want. We're not asking for the money. We're asking for a loan. I just want to really clear that up. As you're saying, to have your money engaged in a project that you are not happy with.
Right, and so I'm saying that if you use part of your money, or you go get a bank loan, whatever, then that's fine.
And it
But
won't happen.
we'll still feel good that we didn't, participate in that destruction of what was there. So that's.
Al, any other questions?
I obviously agree from the standpoint, somewhat of what Fred said, that, obviously we are not in control of what Fishers and Noblesville decide to do. I like the project as far as maintaining the presence of the train to the Northern Territories. So I do think that there's questions that need to be answered, possibly from our attorney. And I think the lawsuit is one of those pending things we just don't necessarily have definitives for. So I'm not opposed, but I do also somewhat agree with Rick that I don't really want to dirty my hands either, because it's not something that we had.
I would just say there's a federal review. I would also want to hear from Chris on what his thoughts are on that decision and so forth, and after he's done some research. I've not heard much from the mayors or commissioners on what their plan is. If they like your plan, I like it. My concern is you're asking for a loan, and if we are bankers, we have to decide as this taxpayer money if we approve that loan or not. I would rather see I don't want to see part of a business plan. I want to see the whole plan
I have
of
a
the
full
whole
business.
railroad or what is Fisher's doing? For example, 146th Street, are they going to tunnel under? Are they going to build a bridge over? Are they going to come back and ask us for the bridge money? I mean, there's a number of things that I have questions on that I don't feel comfortable giving a taxpayer loan to something that I don't have a business plan in front of me.
I do have a business plan. I felt like it.
For going south all the way to,
No.
and that's what I'm saying, I don't want a part of a plan. I want the whole plan
But-
before I
but
can
we
make
are
a
not
decision.
We are not involved or engaged in that part of the plan, so we would not be able to provide you with a plan for that. We would only be able to provide you with the 12 miles.
Well,
that we've been awarded.
let's operate under the assumption, say you don't do a vote tonight, but operate under the assumption that those, if Fishers and Noblesville succeed, those tracks are getting ripped up. So what's left is what's north, and that's what she's talking about, because that other stuff is gone. They're putting trails there. And I understand that we weren't part of that decision, but that's the way the legislation's drawn up, everything was drawn up, the commissioners and the mayors made that decision, so she's operating under the assumption that they're gonna succeed, those tracks are coming up, and she's only dealing with from that 12 miles. So
And I'm just saying, I can't, I just couldn't vote to use taxpayer money for a loan that I'm still unsure what is gonna happen.
So you need just definitive.
I need to hear from Chris and his research. I need some more information there.
Okay.
This time I'd make a motion to table.
Seconded. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Table.
Brenda, can you forward your legal information to Chris so he can review it? You got it?
Brenda, I'm for the project, and I appreciate all you've done.
I
I will tell you this, that my son and I waited in line for 4 hours to be the very first people on that fair train.
Well,
And we were, so it was awesome, and I support it. I just need some more info, is my opinion.
I fully understand it. I can provide you with all the information you want on our project, but Chris or someone will have to find out what's happening with other two cities.
Right, and that's what
I'm
I'm
not
saying
even
here.
involved in that.
Right, it
Okay.
has nothing to do with what you're proposing here.
Thank you, Fred.
Not saving the nickel plate or saving the nickel plate, it's nothing to do with this.
I would just like to say to Jeff, if we can get this thing worked out legally, I think a $750,000 loan of taxpayer money bankrolled by the Intex, I think